Hey everyone, Brad's back again. Welcome to the B side. We're gonna get moving right into sculpting today. I'm kind of psyched about this project that I want to kind of start doing here. Last time we did the B side, it was I took a somewhat obscure character. I think it was called Captain Ultra, and I just wanted to kind of like make a version of him, but it wasn't really an intense sculpting thing. It was just kind of like a goof to kind of like just create something that was a little bit obscure and kind of have a little fun with it. But for this one, and in the series, I think moving forward, I kind of want to make this a thing. I kind of want to make this a thing where I try and find obscure characters in Marvel or even DC, what have you, and kind of not just sculpt them, but kind of give them like the full treatment. I actually want to kind of make them into something that is detailed and interesting enough to sculpt to print out as like a 6 scale statue. And I kind of like the idea of having my statue collection in my office now be just a bunch of characters that no one knows. And I think that's kind of like part of the challenge sometimes is that it's not just to kind of create a sculpture that's cool, but to kind of like, I don't know, I'm not going to be able to concept a new character. It's just not something I can do very well. But what I like to try and do, my version of creativity is to take a character that's kind of unknown or unloved or not terribly, fleshed out and try and turn it into something that was interesting. So like try and kind of flesh it out a little bit and make it feel like it has as much of, the cachet or clout as, like Wolverine or something like that. So what we're going to be doing here is the first stage of this, right? First of all, hello Raptor, hello Jamie. Thank you so much for stopping by. This is kind of hopefully going to be something that I kind of, Sunday is going to be kind of like a nice little day to set aside for this. I think it's, and the weekend, we're not necessarily starting anything major new, but for me, it kind of keeps me on a schedule. And Sunday is kind of one of those days. It's easy to kind of let it slip by, like especially in the evening. So this is kind of what I want to try and do. So let's take a look here where I am. Again, I haven't started anything yet. I just kind of opened up ZBrush, but I have, my scene set up here, right? So basically all I have going on is a couple of reference images. I just want to kind of show you like what I'm thinking of and what I'm trying to do here. What's Ivan? I totally understand. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hello, Mini Chicks. I haven't seen Mini Chicks in a while. It's great to see you here again. Yeah, and good night at the same time. First day school tomorrow. Yes, I totally understand that one. So what I'm going to do here is I basically I went to the web and I typed in obscure Marvel characters. Like literally, I just typed that in. And I saw Jack of Hearts, and I just, I saw the outfit, and I kind of instantly needed to find out more about this character because it's so garish. And the idea, I think, was he patterned his outfit after the Jack of Hearts, and they have kind of those garish outfits there. So that's kind of a cool, and again, I think it's kind of a fun challenge to try and turn this into something which is actually kind of, like neat looking. I'm not going to redesign it. I'm going to do it, but I want to see if I can kind of like, make it fun and kind of like feel legit. It's actually looking at some of these images here. He seems like he's pretty powerful dude. It seems like his powers are kind of very similar to almost like Captain Marvel-y, like he just shoots energy out of his arms, and he can fly in through space and that kind of stuff. He has trouble controlling the power. I think that's what's going on here. He was kind of like mutated through something called, I think it's called Zero Fluid or something like that. I think it's what it's called. So half of his face is like turned purple. But he does have a heart shape around his eye, of course. So some really cool things here. And so what I'm trying to do basically is I really love this pose here. I'm not going to do this pose. It's a little too symmetrical for me. It kind of drives me crazy. But I like the kind of attitude in that pose where he's kind of like just filled with this kind of power here. So I'm kind of taking this pose as kind of my guide in terms of I do want to kind of show off the outfit. So if I do too dynamic of a pose where it's like, arms across and all that kind of stuff, you're not going to see that. So I am kind of going against what I usually try and do, is to try and find a dynamic pose. Now, this is essentially going to be a museum-ish pose in the sense that he's not going to be crazy all over the place, mostly because I'm running out of space on my shelves. I need more vertical than horizontal. So that's what I'm going to do. So this, as you can see here, this is like the most straightforward look at this guy. He's kind of insane. I mean, I love the little hearts on his boots. He's got the heart on the eye. So again, the actual sculpting of the face and the likeness is not much really to worry about. He has no hair, which is awesome. It looks like in some of the images I've seen, it's actually almost like a chainmail type thing around his head. So again, a lot of fun with some noise probably and some kind of fabric effects here. So that's where I'm kind of going to start with here. And again, this is going to be probably a bunch of mistakes. I mean, it is me we're talking about, and I'm going to probably, stop and start here and there, and just kind of show the process. But it's kind of the goal here is to kind of, I don't know, kind of encourage anyone who wants to kind of sculpt along, to just find a weird character and try and kind of make it your own a little bit. Like I said, I'm not trying to change him, but I just want to kind of make him seem worthy of a statue, basically, as best I can. It's just like an expensive rug. That's I'm kind of like, I'm trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to do the outfit. Like, am I going to kind of like use it, like make it almost like stitching, so it's going to come out more, or it's going to be more of a paint job? I think I might want to make it more like an actual like stitching thing. So I'm going to have to try and figure that one out. So what I do when I'm doing these statues, generally speaking, when I want to get a good pose, obviously, right? And I want to have the pose in mind before I get too far ahead of myself. Even though I'm not going to be sculpting him in the pose yet, I want to kind of have symmetry on. But this is a basic male mesh that I have, and I don't know where I got it from. It's been around forever, but I brought it into Maya, just to kind of again get a feel for the pose that I want to have him in. So I kind of know where I'm headed with this. So again, I want him to be kind of floating in the air, but I want him to kind of like also look like he's got some power going. For the base, I'm probably just going to have some sort of energy coming off of his legs that's going to kind of connect him to the ground. So I went to like something like this, right? This is like kind of where I'm thinking for the pose here, kind of like where he's like, just again, nothing fancy, just kind of off the ground a little bit. I haven't really refined the pose yet, but I want to kind of have something like this where he's going to have some energy on his hands. He's going to kind of like just be, off the ground a little bit with a little bit of energy, like or smoke or something like that, to kind of like essentially be the base. Just something, again, just kind of him showing his power, essentially. Of course, you got the whatchamacallit, what am I trying to say here? We got the standard Mike T arthritis hand that we have to make sure that we have on all of our posts, all our poses. Is kind of vitally important that we have that there. So yeah, that's where I'm kind of going with this, right? So the main thing I want to do today, basically, is I want to kind of get a feel for. Sorry, I had to do that disclaimer in the way. I wanted to get a feel for the overall kind of like setup of the character, kind of like the face, and kind of just get those things set up. Because again, this guy's a little bit he's kind of muscular, this dude, but I kind of feel this guy is even more so, and I kind of just want to do a little bit of like, I want to feel like I'm getting closer to the character than this guy is. This guy's very nondescript, and I'm going to be using this image here as kind of my guide. Again, this in terms of like the overall shape of the face and that kind of a thing. Not going to do a whole lot before I put him in the pose, though, because again, I want to create the little jerkin thing that he's got on, using symmetry, obviously, but no real sculpting until I put him in the pose. So it's just going to be a lot of blocking out of things basically at this point. Hey Tony, what's up, Ram? Oh, Ben, what's up, Ben? Yeah, no, Jamie, you're right. Again, at least one Mike T hand. I mean, it's kind of a rule. It's kind of a rule. It's true. Are you talking about? I was talking about the arthritis hand. Mike T has a unique pose for his hands, and they're awesome. And they have got the gnarled fingers, and you have to do it. You have to do it. It's great to see you guys again. It's good to see you too, Ben. Again, like I said, hopefully this isn't dull. I just want to kind of like start thinking out loud in terms of like what I want to do with this. But the cool thing about this is I know going in that for the most part, his actual face can be its own separate thing because he's wearing this headpiece that removes the ears entirely, right? So, and again, I basically just imported him in from Maya, right? So I imported the bind pose from Maya, and I'm going to do some things. So I'm probably going to destroy the actual mesh, but I can just kind of like rebind it when I put it in there. But I also had to scale him way down. I brought him in from Maya. He was huge, but I scaled him down exactly to 25% of what he was. So when I bring him into Maya, I can just scale him up by 400%, and it should be okay. So again, this guy, he's got this kind of really cool collar, this high collar thing here. So I'm just going to kind of start removing some of the thickness of the neck, and I want that again. He's he's got this kind of headpiece on. So pretty quickly, I think I'm going to want to have the face and the headpiece be two separate things. Just because um, it might be easier to kind of work on it with noise because I want to do. I think he's got that chainmail on the top of his head, and I want to use noise to kind of get that more quickly. It is Tony. It's the Mike T arthritis hand. It's it's very um, it's important. It's an important thing to know that that we have to make sure that we always have one, or at least one, if not two. But as soon as we use that Mike T arthritis hand, we need to make sure that everyone knows that the Mike T arthritis hand is a registered trademark of Mike T Artworks and may not be used, reprocessed, or sculpted without the express written permission of the Science League, and so forth. So it's just good to know. All right, so yeah, so let's take a look here again. It's the hardest part for me is just like kind of getting started and saying, because basically I just kind of like dance around for a little bit. But I do again, I want to have like I don't like this stuff on here on the ears because again, if I'm going to use noise to kind of generate that chainmail type thing on the head, I kind of want to have that separately. So pretty quickly, I'm going to make the face its own separate thing. So I'm just going to come here and I'm just going to hit Control F. I'm going to kind of just so I can see what's going on. I'm just going to probably just slice it off. I'm just going to vicious, but let's just do it that way. So I'm going to go to my slicer. And again, keep in mind that, as I mentioned, that I'm probably going to mess stuff up and say later on, you know what, I should have done a different way. I can't tell where it is. It doesn't seem like it goes under his chin. I feel like it kind of comes like here. So I'm just going to kind of like bring it up this way. Yeah, Bradley, like I have anything to teach. All right, so I'm going to select this thing here. Oh, somehow we got all that crap. Okay. All right, so so this guy has a weird interior of the mouth, which I don't think I'm going to need to worry about. Again, my guy's going to kind of have a relatively stoic kind of expression, like he knows he's awesome. So I don't think I need to worry too much about that, but I'll leave it in there. Why bother? I'm just going to hit split hidden. So now I have my main body here. And again, this little opening here, we don't need the mouth bag. So it's going to auto group or not. Let's just open this stuff up so I can see what's going on again. Auto group, so I can just isolate this and get rid of it. So now I'm just going to, again, like I don't really need to worry too much about this, but I can start planning ahead a little bit, right? You can see here, I'm planning ahead not just for UVs and for sculpting and that kind of stuff, but also for printing. If I know that I want to print this guy out, again, and I am going to print him out, and one of the reasons why I'm printing, I want to do that is because it'll force me to take it seriously, so I don't print out just, so I don't just sculpt for the sake of sculpting. I actually want to make this a statue I'm going to hold, have up somewhere. So obviously, I'm going to end up breaking it up into parts. And one of the easiest places to do that, of course, is at the waist when you have like this jerkin thing, whatever it's called, to kind of separate the two. So I might as well do that now. So I'm just basically going to separate all the parts that I know I can separate. Right. So same thing with the boots. Again, anything to make the printing quicker, each part, I'm going to kind of separate each of those things. So I'm just going to do that now. Like I said, even though I am going to kind of plug this back into a rig in Maya, so long as the proportions are the same, I can just kind of find it pretty quickly and just kind of go from there. So these are kind of low. They're kind of mid-cat. So I think that's probably not a bad place to do that. I might just go up one more, though. Seems a little too low. So basically that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to start hiding things and then splitting them off so that I can just kind of like start planning for the different parts, right? So I'm just going to kind of get rid of all that. And I'm just going to shrink that by 1. We'll hit F. And now if I get out of solo mode here, you can see this is kind of where I am. I'm going to do the same thing for the hand, but I think I'll probably hold off on that until later because when I plug this back into the rig, I'd prefer not to have to worry about binding hands individually. I'll just bind the whole torso and transfer the weights from the original and then bring it back in. But eventually, I'm going to be breaking off the arms, the hands, probably at that wrist piece, because again, it just makes the torso a smaller print. Um, so I think that's kind of enough for that. So again, ideally, let's just see how this works, because you know how sometimes remeshing does not work great when you have like these openings and stuff. So let's just see. You mesh the same. Let's just see if I get lucky with this here. I usually have trouble around the fingers. You can see here the fingers are a little bit wonky, which is why, what I'm going to do. I'm going to break off the hands by remesh. So Jamie, usually when it comes to rigging things from ZBrush, it just involves a lot of swearing. But well, this again, like this guy is already rigged, right? This mesh is rigged in ZBrush, in Maya. But I will need to kind of just transfer the weights. So basically, I'm just going to go back to the bind code, bring in those pieces, bind them to the skeleton, and then tell Maya to kind of copy the weights from one to the other. And Raptor, yeah. So the interesting thing, Raptor. One of the first things I did when I was learning ZBrush is I started I like to start a series. It kind of keeps me focused, kind of like on the next thing, so I don't get kind of listless. One of the things I did right when I first started sculpting in ZBrush, in fact, that's what I was doing when I first met Mike and Tony and stuff, coming into do a hangout, was I was doing obscure Batman villains. And that's what I started. In fact, one of the ones I did was it wasn't an eraser, but I know who you're talking about. I think that was on my list. One of the ones I did, I remember, was the Condiment King, who apparently was literally a man with a gun that shot ketchup. And I really need that guy needs his own series, personal opinion. All right, so now I'm going to remesh this, and that works a lot better. So yeah, I don't have to worry about the fingers getting all messed up. So that just kind of helps me get a feel for what's up. And again, obviously, at some point, these are going to overlap. They're going to be, it's going to be printed out as a single thing. The head probably is going to be printed out as a separate thing from the collar. But like I said, the main reason why I'm separating this is so that I can use these theoretically better and use noise to kind of generate, a chainmail type thing. Or I could also just use, nanomesh or the dynamic subdivision for that too. It's true, Tony. It's true. Again, like I said, it's kind of like, for me, it's kind of my version of being creative. Like, I'm not a concept artist. If I tried to be a concept artist, I would just end up with something very derivative of other characters that I like. I kind of know what I don't necessarily have a knack for in that sense. And so for me, yeah, this is kind of like where I can be creative with a character. I'm not going to create a character from scratch, but I can try to take characters that were somewhat, less than fleshed out and, have a little fun with them, turn them into something that is a little bit more, fleshed out, and kind of like that's my version of being creative, I think. I'm just going to polish that a little bit. I want to have that be a little bit rounder. And maybe I can remesh this again. Let's just see. I don't know that I want to get lucky with this, but yeah, it actually worked pretty well. I just wanted to have that not be a hard edge thing, because again, this is not always going to look. I can try. There's some of these kind of things that are kind of modeling. I don't know if it makes more sense to do this in ZBrush or Maya, but I'm going to go to the edge here and see if I can just extrude this edge in. Extrude the border. No, I should say that's the best port height and everything. That actually works pretty well. I'm still not like 100% sure how some of the demodeler stuff works, but Condiment King is awesome, right? I mean, I just think it's hilarious. And again, I think he was kind of meant to be a joke, to be fair, I don't think that DC thought it was creating the new Joker with the Condiment King. But I do think that it was just kind of a fun thing to do. And then Ventriloquist Puppet, yeah. What is the name of that guy? He's got like there's a name of the guy, right? With the ventriloquist guy, he's kind of creepy. Yeah, I got up to, I think, M in my. I was doing them alphabetically. I think I did. I started with the A was actually kind of a cool one. I can't remember his name now, but. There's Light, I think, who was like the skull-faced guy who, was really weird looking. The Condiment King, the Doll Maker was my D, the electrocutioner, which is kind of like electro, I think, kind of was my E guy. Agreement's not ruin the rig in Maya. Yes, no, it's not a dumb question at all, Jamie. It absolutely does. So if I brought this back in, I couldn't usually what you can do is like if you want to just have the exact same thing, right? Like this guy here, I could bring this into ZBrush, do all kinds of sculpting on it, and then bring it back in and just kind of plug it in as a blend shape, so it would still be rigged and it would just kind of shift to whatever I did sculpting wise. But in this case, it absolutely does mess it up. It definitely would not fit. Scarface, yes, thank you. So it definitely would mess it up. So all I'm going to do though is you can kind of basically copy skin weights from one bound mesh to another if they're bound to the same skeleton. I can't. Okay. So basically, what I do is I'm going to bring in these newer meshes. I'm going to bind them to the skeleton and keep this original mesh, and then just tells Maya to kind of transfer or copy the weights from the weighted mesh to the new stuff. And because they're pretty much occupying the same space, it'll transfer good enough for the pose, right? I'll probably need to do a little bit of adjustment, but that's kind of, something you kind of accept as part of the bargain. But at least this way, again, I know what the pose is going to be. It's not a crazy pose, so I don't need to worry too much about crazy deformations, I don't think. It'll be enough, I think, just to kind of transfer the weights, get them roughly in position, and then bring them back in here. So that's my plan. Okay, so the face, I'm going to do the same thing here with the face. Again, you know how ZBrush gets a little bit weird with empty holes, like empty edges. So let's just come here and I can remesh this because it got a little bit wonky there, right? So let's hope it remeshes okay. I mean, it's fine. Like I said, he's not going to be animated so long as the parts are still there. I think I'll be okay. And I'm just going to do a quick little extrude of the edges in, just because, again, there's empty edges get a little bit wonky. I want to actually do the whole mesh border, so let's try that again. Just to kind of give it a little bit more there, and do a little insert edge just to kind of hold that edge too, so that it doesn't get a little too weird. And all this I'm doing knowing that eventually I'm going to remesh by union and have them kind of like get sewn together. I remember that Gotham show. I don't think I saw all of it. I remember I saw like several seasons of it, and I thought it was really cool. I actually really enjoyed it. Kind of go back. I know I'm sure it's done now, but I want to kind of go back and revisit that. This guy has significantly more defined cheekbones. This character here, I don't know if you saw, I did a recreated X-Men volume issue 1 as a sculpt, and this guy was pretty much the basis for every male character in that cover. Mostly because I had a rig for him and I could just pose him. I'm just going to use these eyes but rotate them around so that that notch, that kind of like carved in iris, is not going to get in the way. All right, so let's see what we got here. And again, like, I do want to take advantage of everything that symmetry will allow me to do. So I am going to try and get as much, at least some sculpting done. But again, once you bend the arms and do stuff like, the muscles are going to look different anyway. So a lot of this is just, it's going to have to kind of wait until like he's already posed. But that is kind of my goal today is to get most of the body blocked out. Hopefully block out part of the clothing. The clothing is going to be tricky. I can tell you that right now. But that's kind of it's going to be the real interesting part of this. Hopefully, it'll be the part that makes it look interesting too when it's printed out. So yeah, let's kind of get here. And like I said, he's got the reference up there definitely has much more of a calf than this guy. In fact, he's got kind of longer legs, and that's going to be something that I can't mess it up. I can't change that before I plug him into the rig, because once I plug him into the rig, the bones need to kind of line up. So I think once I pose him in Maya and bring him back, I will kind of elongate the legs a little bit, especially from the knee down, because I feel like this feels a little stumpy. But again, I'm not going to do it until after I have the pose. So now I do want to kind of like pump out his calves a little bit, but since I've already separated this from From here, what I'm going to do is just go to transpose master really fast so I can do it to both at the same time. Make sure symmetry's on, and a little bit of, basic plumping. This is, and I will say this a bunch of times because I'm self-conscious, but this is all just early stages. I say it all the time as if like the later stages look much better. I'm not sure that they do, but it could just be an excuse not to get into too much into detail at that point. All right, so now I'll come back and just bring it back. I just wanted to kind of be able to sculpt them both at the same time, and that was just kind of the easy way of doing that. The arms here. For this, I can just close these holes, right? So again, not the exciting part, but hopefully, if you are going to do something for printing, I think it's a good idea to start thinking in those terms kind of quickly, just because you don't want to kind of like do all this sculpting and then realize, oh, I have to go back and fix this so I can print it out, right? So I'm just going to go through and close those holes with Z Modeler, and I don't like the different poly groups. I'll just Control Shift click on the mesh. Control Shift tap and drag, and those bevels. I'll just hide those for a second. You can just Control W to make them their own polygroup. Control Shift tap and drag, Control W to make that bevel the same polygroup. I just want to kind of have the polygroups behaving basically. It's going to do, even though this doesn't matter, it bothers me that it's kind of not straight. And again, I'm thinking in terms of printing. I want to make sure that this is nice and clean. So even though we're getting ahead of ourselves here, I'm just going to isolate this really fast. It out and invert it, so now it's just this, and I just want to kind of vertically scale it, kind of flatten it. That way, it's just nice and clean. Like I said, I've had it where I've cut and keyed stuff later in the game, and it kind of got a little bit like it wasn't flat, and so like the connections between the printed pieces were, like I said, and I'm probably going to end up changing this eventually anyway, but I like to just kind of. I keep saying this, but I want to kind of like keep in mind what the ultimate goal is, which is to print this thing. So I want to start thinking in terms of what's going to make that work better. Okay, so now it's going to Control W to kind of like clean this up. And I'll just Control Shift click on this, mask it out, and then invert it because I had polygroups down there on the feet, which are the same polygroup. And I just want to, once again, vertically kind of scale this up a little bit so that it's straight. Just want to kind of, again, head off any problems later on. All right, so this is not looking like anything. It looks like a guy wearing a hazmat suit, but that's all right. So let's just, and again, like for me, I don't know about you guys, when I'm doing stuff, I feel better once I can start saying, okay, like once I see some paint on there. So I'm just going to throw some paint where these things are. It makes me feel like I've made more progress than I have. That's all it comes down to. It makes me pretend, look at this. See, he's got yellow boots already. We're fine. No, we're not. But this is what I tend to do. You have to give yourself little fake indications of progress. I'm gonna go up here on my material modifier. I'm just gonna increase the diffuse a little bit on the basics, so it feels a little less gray. And let's go here. Select that blue color. And remember, you have to have the wheel visible before you can sample colors from your picture. I tend to forget that. All right, let's go to the boots. Fill the boots. I forgot to fill the hands. So let's grab the hands. Fill the hands. Like blue. Let's fill on that. Again, none of this it makes no point. There's no point in doing this right now, but it makes me feel better. Now let's go to a darker blue here, and put some color on here. In case you're wondering what I'm doing, I don't know why I like doing this. I use the trim dynamic brush. I turn off the Z subtract so it doesn't kind of carve anything down, and turn the color down. It just hits the high points, so it just kind of gives me. So I probably should have inverted this, to be honest with you, but. Hits the high points. So basically you can kind of like, it's almost like dry brushing. So I can kind of just hit the high points with the lighter blue. And again, I do that a lot when I'm actually painting. This is just so it feels like it's not all one color. the same thing here with the pants. If I have a low opacity on my color, I just need to fill a few times. But I just want to kind of get a feel. Okay, so he's wearing blue. We're almost done. Just kidding. All right, so pretty blocked out. Not terribly exciting yet, which is fine. I just want to kind of start getting the feel for the overall form here. He's a little bit. He's not quite so bulky here, so I'm going to kind of like narrow that a little bit. He does have a pretty wide little jerkin thing. I keep thinking I think it's called a jerkin. If it's not, then I apologize. I don't really know for sure, but I think that's what it's called. Just gonna get some of that dark back in there. All right. So again, all very, very, very straightforward. I'm just going to block in the shape now for this little jerkin thing. He has to have a collar, which I'm going to make separately as well. But I'm trying to figure out exactly what to make of this, right? So it looks, because you look at this picture here, obviously these are part of something. It's kind of hard to tell whether these are all part of the same thing, or if like that yellow part in the middle is kind of like, is that part of the shirt? Is it just really skin tight, or is like that little thing he's wearing kind of like too sashes? It doesn't really matter, I guess, because it's going to be separated by color and by that trim anyway. But what I'm thinking is, should I make that all one piece, or just kind of make the two bands on either side and then just sculpt the yellow part in the middle? And I think that's what I'm going to do, because again, I'm going to be doing kind of like some stuff with these designs here. It might make more sense to have them kind of separate from the rest of the body. Tabard. Is that what they're called? See, look, we're gonna learn. So I have to find out. Now I gotta find out what tabard is. Is a sleeveless? Look at you. Look at you. See? Like you know, we have to get our UK friends here to kind of tell us what's going on, because it's definitely kind of like a medieval thing happening here. Oh, he does have it. There actually is a heart on his face. Interesting. Okay, cool. It is a tabard. You're absolutely, because it is a sleeveless thing. I don't know why I was calling it a jerkin. I do that. I've heard that before too, but I don't know what that actually is. Part of me wanted to call it a gherkin, but I think that's a pickle. So we'll go with tabard. Tabard makes more sense. This weird thing where I don't save until I feel like I've earned it. So I haven't saved yet. All right, so let's go here to the face really fast, just for funsies. I'm gonna turn symmetry off, just because, again, this is fake progress here. But I'm going to kind of go to a dark purplish blue and throw it on there. Make sure it's 100% this time, so I can throw it on there. Okay, there you go. There you go. Look at that. Now it's totally him. There's no question. It's not. There's no question it's him. So what I want to do with, I want to kind of take this part. I also think it might be easier if I make them separate pieces to kind of adjust them after I pose him. As opposed to if it was a solid thing, there'd be some stretching. So I think that might actually work pretty well. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So what's the best way to go ahead and do that? And I'm thinking, I mean, again, I think I can just get a cylinder and just kind of like wrap it or kind of bend it, which is probably what I would do. But I mean, let's experiment. Why not? I'm going to duplicate this, not the hands, for goodness sake. Let me grab the body here and duplicate this. I just want to see whether this makes any sense. Let's go to solo mode here, and all I'm going to do is isolate this main part, completely hidden, and I'm going to use my slice curve again. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to turn symmetry off for this. All I'm going to do is just kind of drag a line through here. I just want to see if it makes sense to kind of just use a curve brush for this. I don't know if it makes sense to do that. It probably doesn't, but let's just try to do it. I'm going to brush. I'm going to go to curve alpha. We'll try. I mean, I know that there are curve snap, curve strap, curve flat. Let's just see what kind of. Yeah, that looks actually pretty good. So let's just try that. So now I'm going to go to curve flat here, and let's just see. Let's go to curve functions. Let's choose frame mesh polygroup, and then just tap on there. Make my brush a little bit broader. All right, I think that actually is kind of what I want. So I'm just going to tap on here. Let's split this off. And obviously I need, but this is very low res, which is kind of a good thing. I kind of want to have this be really easily shaped, right? And then we'll add the the fanciness later. But the fewer points, obviously, the easier it is too to kind of keep these faces somewhat evenly spaced. So again, obviously, I'm fully aware of the fact that this is kind of going into the body right now, but I'm not really concerned about that because that will obviously be changing eventually. But I kind of just want to maintain a certain degree of the distance between this stuff. So I'm going to bring this up here. The one thing I want to do probably right here is just bevel this edge so that it has a nice little, more of a curvy thing happening here. So I'm going to bevel that. And again, I'm just trying to remind myself that it doesn't need to kind of go through yet. It's going to be subdivided. It's going to get more points, and that will make it way easier. But I kind of think that this might be a decent way to block out this shape in a really simple way. So it's got creased edges here. I'm just going to uncrease those because they're not all creased. It's kind of a weird thing. So they're creased and uncrease all. I'm going to go here with my Z modeler brush, give myself one edge loop right here in the middle. That will kind of allow me to shape it a little bit more in that kind of, in this way here, and get it roughly in place. So this is, again, so just so you folks know, my plan is, this is my plan. I don't know, what I hope to do is I hope to kind of do this on some Sundays. I'm kind of hoping the stylist kind of takes advantage of Sunday. I think Sunday's a good day for this. But I also want to, again, I'm trying to kind of get myself on a more productive schedule. And one of the things I want to do is I want to keep doing the comic book covers that I kind of do for fun. And that's what I want to kind of start doing on Thursdays. Probably shorter ones on Thursdays because it is a kind of a work day, but I wanted to kind of work on Thursday probably around like 6 p.m. Eastern time, like I think I mentioned in Discord for a couple hours, and work on comic book covers there. And on Sundays and the days that I'm, maybe on Thursdays too, work on this project. I like the idea of having different projects to kind of, keep things interesting, but I'm still working on both. Because I'm really excited for the next comic book cover I'm doing. Right now, I've printed out all the X-Men characters for the X-Men Volume 1, Issue 1, and now I'm just kind of working on painting them and making the environment for them. But one of the next comic book cover that I'm doing, which is, again, I just think it's going to be kind of neat looking if I can do it right, is this one, which I'm going to find right here. Is this one here. So it's the Daredevil cover, and it's just, again, it's got some really cool stuff going on in the background. So again, it's this kind of a cool little way to fake depth with a lot of layers of buildings, which I don't feel will be terribly crazy tough to do, for some of them anyway. And really cool pose in the foreground with Daredevil. Really fun paint opportunity for that one. At least red and black. Hopefully I can't mess that up. But this should be really fun to do. I'm kind of looking forward to this one. So I just really like the mood here as well. So this is the one that I want to work on next in terms of the sculpting part. I just really love this cover. So that's exciting to me, is doing this. So again, and that's how I tend to kind of try and motivate myself, is to come up with typically self-delusional ideas. I'm going to do a whole series of obscure characters or comic book covers or what have you, but it just kind of keeps you going, because sometimes to me the worst part is when you finish a long project and you have no idea what to do next, and you kind of just sit there. And that's I don't know, I hate that feeling. So I want to have, I'm doing a series of stuff, and even while I'm working on the thing I'm currently working on, I already know what's coming next, so I'm excited to get done. Do you add the inks for the? I do. In fact, funny you should ask that, because let me just show you, because this is something that I think is really kind of cool to do, and I is to paint like the comic ink style. God, I haven't even saved this. So for example, in my X-Men issue 1, these are all decimated so they can all fit in a single scene, but this, so you can see what I'm talking about. And I'm sure the textures are kind of like decimated as well, because they're not, again, they had to be kind of like crunched down. But in 6 to 8 weeks, when this thing finally loads, yes, thanks, Ben. Save work. That was really kind of stuck. When this thing loads, and I'm sure it will at some point. There we go. So you can see here, um, this is all of the 3D models uh, of the X-Men characters all in one thing. I wanted to kind of put them all together just to kind of get a feel for the spacing, because I am building the environment for them right now, like, physical environment. So I need to kind of get a feel for how they're going to be spaced out. But like, yeah, so when I painted these, I painted them basically, one to one what I saw in the comic. So lots of like mask curves to kind of like make these crazy shapes, and then just dump paint in there, and it looked really stupid for 90% of the time, because like you take for example, like take for example this piece, like before you get to the end of this, it looks like you're just throwing random shapes on there, but when you put it, when it comes together with everything else, it makes sense. But yeah, so this is kind of what I'm talking about when it comes to that kind of like that comic ink, and that's one of the reasons why painting the printed models for this is a bit of slow going. There's a lot of layers and there's a lot of masking, because you have to do like the different graphic things here. I have to say, one of the things I'm proudest of in this whole thing, and I can tell you why, is Professor X. Not because he looks good, but because I so did not want to do him. Like, I just had no desire to make a dude sitting in a chair with a blanket. But I was so proud that he actually came out looking like an angry bald man in the wheelchair. So go me. But yeah, so this is that kind of painting style is really cool, because it looks like it helps. There's a comic material that I made. It's actually just my comic material that I use for this. It's just, I think, one of the framer materials that are with ZBrush. I think I just kind of like tweaked some of the settings so that it had less cavity detection and that kind of a thing. So yeah, that definitely helps with that kind of paint, because this kind of paint with like a basic material, it can look a little weird, just because it looks okay, but it looks like the shadows now add to that, and kind of takes away from the comic inky part. So it's a little bit of a weird thing. So the comic material kind of helped with that. Yeah, Ben, did I mention that? I didn't know if I did. Yeah, because I was just like, because I'm doing all these different characters that are like in crazy, action poses, and then there's just a guy sitting there going, over there, it just seemed like, I don't know. But I think that was probably why it was actually interesting and fun to do, is that I had no confidence that I was going to, because, again, the wheelchair is a different thing. I'm not usually modeling stuff like that. So it was a challenge, just because I didn't know if I was going to know what I was doing. And it worked out. Like I said, yeah, it worked out okay. Again, it wasn't a complicated sculpt, so it definitely helped that it was not what you call a grueling sculpt to do. I just really was not looking forward to it. It just definitely was not, it wasn't the one I was like, oh, I can't wait to do Professor X. All right, so again, just blocking out some really rough shapes here. So this, I don't need to remesh this. I could probably literally just like add edge loops here. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to, again, this is boring, I know, but I'm going to add, I want to make sure they're right in the middle, so I can kind of like, get this nice and clean. So I'm just going to change this to insert multiple edge loops, but then just tap. So it'll just give me one right smack dab in the middle. I want to kind of almost manually add resolution to this at first, just to kind of, make this a little bit more evenly spaced. So I know for sure that's what it is. And again, I think part of me is just putting it off, because I know that this is going to be a really interesting and somewhat challenging bit of clothing to do. But I want the UV to work nice. I'm thinking for this, I don't know if I'm going to be using UV so much as probably something maybe like nano mesh or something like that, to kind of like basically use the low faces here as a way of kind of like adding these repeating patterns. I don't know. I'm talking like I know what I'm talking about, right? So this is going to go here, and I probably need to kind of make this inner part a little thinner. I'm just going to slide it over, and of course, by doing that, I have now made this line too much. So thank goodness for the slide edge tool. Just slide this right over. Now I'm going to mirror this guy. So it seems All right, here and probably be a better way to do what I'm doing here, but that's okay. I just want to kind of round this up a little bit here, maybe even outward a little bit. Because again, if I just if I make it mm, um, soft, then you have a nice round the top there. It gets too narrow, of course, but that's okay. So again, yeah, this part here, this yellow part here, I I could probably just sculpt that right into the chest, right? Like there's I do that sometimes where I'm like, yeah, but I have to make a new part. Well, no, you don't. I mean, it's just a part of the chest poking through. So just make that part of that chest, that sculpt. That makes the most sense to me. So again, let's just um, make progress here. So I'm just going to come in here and throw on some color because again, progress is being made. But I just want to kind of get a feel for how things kind of work together in terms of their overall proportion, just because that's an easy thing to kind of like find out at the end that you didn't quite plan correctly. Again, there's nothing worse than doing all that work and then realizing that it just doesn't work together. You have to go back and resize different things, and you know. So now he's got this weird belt. It looks like it's got kind of a little circular top on there. This is where we have to kind of look at some of our other images here. Yeah, it looks like it's just kind of a belt with a little bit of a thing on there. Okay. This is the best right here. This shows you. Of course, they're all different. He's got this weird little pattern on here, and here it looks like here. It looks like he's got an arrow pointing at his crotch. I don't think I really want to go with that. But I mean, I don't know the whole story of this guy, so who knows? But all right, so bring in a belt, I guess. There's a way, right, to round or not. I don't know. Let's see. All right, so this is going to be the. I'm going to call it. This is the Jamie B special. I'm going to call this the tabard in my sub tool palette, as if like, yes, I knew that the entire time. Tabard. Don't question my bona fides. I know all about this stuff. And comic covers listed the draped only in the. Oh, wait a minute. Really? Let's see. Let's find out. Oh, you mean this little dude here? Yeah, I tend to think you see a little bit on the back there. There's that part. Oh, you mean yeah, that part? Yeah. Oh yeah, I can see what you mean. It might just but the way this looks here, and again, like this is not necessarily like definitive, but it's hard to tell whether or not these little things coming down are actually extensions of this. I mean, you would think they were, but they kind of don't look like it, right? Because you can see with this one anyway, it goes up and around, but this kind of wraps around all the way. So I didn't. Yeah, Raptor. I mean, I'm guessing that's an arrow. I mean, it just seems like it's a bold choice. It's a bold choice for a tire. So I'm going to go here with a cylinder, and let's just over that really fast. I don't know why. And this might just be me. I hate belts. I don't. They just bother me. They never seem like they fit well. Because maybe it could be the cylinder, and cylinders aren't really exactly conforming. But I don't know. I hate belts. I always get stuff like this, and I guess I have to just actually shape it. But that's time. All right, so we're gonna do something like this, and yeah, and that's again that's part of the fun of this is that again you get a little bit of freedom with this because he is so obscure that it's not like Wolverine, like, oh, okay, I know that costume. I'm gonna use a deformer on this and just see if I can cheat this a little bit here. Let's go to my mask and mask out these little corners here. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm gonna be honest with you, folks. Sometimes I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I'm just gonna do this, and I'm gonna see if I can kind of just bring that out that way and this way, just to kind of be a little bit more, a little bit less ovoid. Yeah, I said it. Avoid. And let's pull this out a little bit here like this. All right, and then Control and Alt. If you do that, it kind of does it does the unmasking of everything else, or it does the masking of everything else here. So wow, that just not even close to what I wanted. That's really interesting, but that's okay. So fun fact: if you like what it looks like on top, but not in the middle, that's okay. Well, let's go back to my selection tool. I'm just going to select top here, invert of just these two. I'll just delete hidden, and then get rid of this one here in the bottom. Delete hidden, and now I'll just extrude this whole thing down as if it never happened. That way I get this, there you go. Same thing as if it never happened. Inside out though, so flip it, right? And make sure symmetry is back on. All this work for a friggin' belt. This is why I hate belts. I'm just gonna bring it in a little bit. My move infinite depth, which I'm not gonna lie, was a brush when it first came out. I kind of like didn't know what to make of it, and now I can't live without it. All right, so now that little rounded part coming up, it's weird. It's stuff like this that baffles me. Like it's not the like the other. It's stuff like that little shape on the top. I'm sure there's a very easy way to make the little shape on the top, and I am just going to be like, I don't even know. So I'm double sided again. So I'm just going to extrude these faces up and then extrude the whole thing in. I don't know if this makes sense. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this whole polygroup in like this. Make sure I flip it again. And then I'm just going to extrude these faces up. And then, like again, I'm pretty sure there's a better way. let me rephrase that. I'm absolutely sure there's a better way. But I don't know what that way is. I think there's a way to kind of like bevel and curve or something like that. I don't even know. But again, when all is said and done, and this is smoothed out, I'm guessing it'll work out okay. And now, interesting little polygroup in here. So I'm going to go to polygroup the poly loop, so I can polygroup just that. Then Control Shift tap on this. And polygroup that little poly loop here. So let's isolate this piece. Watch it clicking. There we go. Okay. So let's get rid of this. Again, there are sometimes, and again, I don't know if it happens to you guys at all, but like stupid little rabbit holes you just kind of fall down, and you spend hours on stuff that you have no business spending hours on. Yeah, you can bridge the top face with an arc, right? And that's the kind of thing where I kind of forget how to do. So, I just I knew that there was a thing that did that. I knew that there was such a thing as that. Like I've seen people do it, and I just don't know how. So I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist, that it's not an option. So I feel like I made a creative solution to a very difficult problem. So now I have these three polygroups. Huzzah. And now if I just increase polygroups, how does this look when I smooth it? Okay, not bad. Obviously down here is an issue, but that's just because apparently it's not a polygroup down there. So I'm just sort of single edge loop. So that will eventually work. Again, this is one of those things where I have no business even bothering with the edges right now. I just kind of like want to see how it looks, but it's fine. It will get me started. And again, I'm probably going to end up just taking a cylinder and then meshing it, bullioning it together at some point as well. But again, this is fine. This is fine. It's just I'm going to keep saying this is fine and hope that I convince myself that that's actually true. All right. And that is Ben, I am a big proponent of shadow box because of that very reason. Like it ends up being more often than not the fastest solution to an intractable problem. Just because it's easy to forget that shadow box is there, just because it kind of feels inexact sometimes unless you have a really crazy high resolution. But it's so quick and it's so easy. I love it. Like I'm a big unabashed shadow box fan. I use it more than I care to admit. That didn't make any sense. It's giving him lats in the middle of his back. It's fine. Um, Here it is. I painted yellow on his back. How embarrassing. Again, no one's going to see it. That's fine. Now, also keeping in mind here that the painting does not matter in the long run. I mean, it matters for the sake of the render, obviously. But if the goal here is to print, then I kind of almost want to make sure I don't over rely on paint to make the model look decent. Because when I print it out, obviously the paint does not come with it. And my paint job is not going to be a plus necessarily. Um, Especially this is crazy complex. All right, so let's see what we got now. Now let's take a look at the. I think that I want to get a little bit more. What I might end up doing, and to be fair too, I might end up like with the tavern here. I might end up like almost making that separately and then plugging it into the pose version after the fact. Like I don't want to wait to pose him until I'm happy with the completion of the tabard, because I think that the tabard is going to be a more time-consuming thing. So I might just kind of keep them separate, almost work on them as a separate side hustle here, and then bring it in. I'm just thinking out loud here, but that's kind of, for me anyway. That's part of the process is kind of like dividing the labor and figuring out what makes the most sense. I want the character in the pose as quickly as possible, because to me the pose is everything. It kind of, again, even if the pose, like for this one, there's nothing fancy about this pose at all, but the pose it's just what kind of conveys the mood, so to speak, if this could be said to have a mood. I'm going to bring this. Looks like, get that picture. This is the kind of thing I was talking about before, about how like it sucks when you realize your proportions are off. Like he has a lot less forehead than I was giving him, so I need to kind of bring that down a little bit. And I think I probably will UV these in Maya. I have a lot more control over the UVs in Maya. Those of you who use Blender, again, like you know that Blender, for example, I think has you get a lot more control over UVs as well. I'm pretty sure. And ZBrush is fine, but my main concern, like I said, like if I do like a chainmail noise and then convert it to geo, then I need to make sure that the UVs are laid out correctly. I can also try the dynamic subdiv too. It's also really cool. Remember, was it micro mesh that we used to have way back when? It was something where like you would render it out, and then you would say convert it. Oh yeah, draw micro mesh, and then once you do that, you can actually kind of convert that to. I don't know if people even use that anymore. I think that like dynamic subdiv pretty much does most of it for you. All right, so let's take a look at the this part here, the collar part. You can see in this picture here, it definitely looks like it's got its own separate. I don't know if you can even tell. You can't even see my mouse probably, but it looks like there's definitely kind of a separate part there. Like you can actually see the trim coming around here. So that's good. That means it's legit a separate piece, and I can kind of treat it as such. But and I ordinarily I wouldn't. I would just use the curve to fake the trim and then sculpt it. But because the collar comes up, I think it kind of needs to be its own piece, right? So got to actually do it. So I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to rename this here. I'm going to start renaming this here. Also, if you are working, feel free to save, because you know how horrible things sometimes happen. I'm going to rename the belt. This makes sense to me. Hands, legs, boots. And again, so much of this is just place save until after I pose it. I really am going to change the proportions quite a bit and so forth. But I just want to make sure this works with the rig, and we'll go from there. So I can tell you, I don't know. Again, this might be just me, but like for me, Whether it's a sculpt or a painting or an animation, there's always one thing that I can never feel like I get right with it. Like something just ends up being the big pain. I have a feeling that the belt is going to be the big pain for me. It's weird to say, but I think it's going to be the belt. All right. Anyway, so collar, we got to do the little flaps down here and the crotch indicator. Also have to do that. So let's go with that. Collar time. So I'm going to go to the torso, duplicate the torso, and let's go to solo mode. Let's see where we are. Again, great thing about this, right, is to basically build this by kind of chipping away at what you don't want. The edge flow is already exactly what you need for this, so it's perfect. I'm just going to go. Let's just see if we can use the Z modeler brush for this and kind of select this poly group here. Let's go in the right direction now. No, it doesn't quite work. So all right. But let's just chip away. Okay, just going to get rid of all this stuff here. And right, back forward again. These. So I think the issue is it doesn't quite wrap around the back, but that's okay. We'll just do a polish and a remesh. There's nothing polish and remesh can't fix. Love polish and remesh. I'll polish my features. This is all I want. Okay, really hidden. Just going to do a quick polish my features. I'm going to actually mask out the neck. I don't need that to get any narrower, but I'll polish that by features, so it kind of cleans that part up. And do a quick remesh. I would say, sure. So I have a nice clean-ish. This is a little bit weird. ZBrush does weird things like that sometimes. And then you do it again, it's fine. You know, it's just testing you. All right, so now let's kind of do again the collar. Let's just take a look at where we are with this first. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to inflate this a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of bring it out from the body a touch. Bring that out. I get a feel for the overall placement of this. Put out a little bit. So now I need to bring up the collar. Again, I feel like this is actually in this picture, and I want to make sure. So yeah, the collar actually comes down. There's that no notch there. Okay. I feel like we need to. I feel like we can lose a couple of these here. I'm gonna hide these guys right there. Okay, bleed hidden. Let's hit quick save. Now I'm just going to. Let's just see if this works. I'm gonna go to my. I'm gonna see if I can extrude the edge loop and extrude this whole thing up, and it does work. I mean, it's not exactly what I want, obviously, but it extrudes just the edges that I wanted, which is kind of cool. Pull this up a little bit, maybe bring it in. I'm just going to scale them vertically just to kind of make sure they all line up a little bit here. Let's just nudge this out a little bit. To mask out everything, just do a quick. Well, don't polish the corners, Brad. Just to kind of clean that up a little bit. Little smoothies. Obviously, we're going to do a little bit more with this, but I wanted to kind of get that shape. I'm going to turn off symmetry for a second so I can center this. Just kind of widen that a touch to red. I'm going to be back. Clearly, this needs to be narrowed. Look at what we can do here. So I'm going to do a little bit of doctoring. I'm going to get rid of these edge loops here really fast. See if I can do a quick remesh and get this looking okay. Okay, good. do a quick, I'm gonna go to mask, mask the border. I just want to do a little cleanup. So I'm just going to go to masking and go to mask the border and then do a quick little polish just to kind of clean that up a little bit. With the camera, you'll see that Archie has shown up to say hello. He is the newest addition to the Groatman cat family. He is 6 months old. Means he's about to need to go to the vet for what I imagine is a somewhat unpleasant operation. All right, so we got that. Now, again, knowing that that this is going to be a print, I kind of want to give myself some. Uh, I want to make sure that this is going to kind of like leave behind some room for the head to kind of go in there at some point. So I just want to kind of make sure I don't like overindulge in making this nice and snug. I need this to have some thickness, obviously. So I'm going to extrude it outward so that, again, I have more room that way. So I'm going to go here to extrude, poly reball, give it some thickness. Definitely being a little bit hovering right here. That looks okay. That's acting goofy there. I don't like it, but it's okay. And now I can just get my mirror brush and just nudge this down a little bit. I'm going to use a curve too to kind of give that some trim around there. These guys are showing a little bit more, but again, so much of this is just planning a little bit. Again, I want to make sure that there's enough room for the head to kind of like basically kind of just slide in there. All right, so let's just fill that really fast. And you can see it's got kind of a cool little collar. It's got kind of like a little heart on there and so forth. So it's kind of neat. Let's take a look here. Again, why am I doing this? I don't even know, but I just find this fun. So I'm just going to, even though it's really low res right now, I mean we can't have a little fun with this. So I'm just going to come here and bring these guys out. I don't even know what's going on in the back. It's fine like this. Go here. There you go. Perfect. All right. So just to kind of, again, get a feel for what's going on here, I do want to make the collar. Okay. All right. All right. So again, I feel that we've blocked out the overall shapes of this guy. I feel that once I do the little stuff down here, these little loinclothy things, there's no point in doing them until he's already posed because why waste my time? So I want to just do the little part right here and then the little tops. And then I'm going to bring it over into Maya, I think, and then just do the pose. Like I said, I think that this part here, I'm just going to kind of like save that, and work on that later and then just put it in place. I don't think that these will be terribly difficult to kind of like manually place in there. Or I can always just bring them into Maya too and pose them after the fact. But I just kind of want to have that kind of like roughly want to have imposed before I get too bogged down with this part. Might end up like working on these separately and just recording it, just because again it might be a lot of trial and error with there because I'm not really sure exactly where I'm going with that. We'll have to see. All right, so let's kind of do the this little part here. And there might be a lot of that, to be honest with you. Like again, the belt too. It's got kind of like a lot of little parts to it. Looks like, which would definitely benefit from the use of symmetry, maybe. But I don't really know. I think that probably just as easy to move things into place. I always find things like belts tend to kind of like get warped and stuff after you pose them. So sometimes it makes sense to kind of do it after the fact. All right. So I want to do the little thingy down here, and then we'll do the belt, the boot covers, and I think we'll be kind of like, and then I'll do the little wristbandy things. So just some basic blocking out of shapes here. So let's do this little part here. I think this goes all the way around the back here. So I'm just going to start with a cylinder. And again, in the images, again, different colors each time. The common denominator seems to be kind of like a square pattern. I kind of think that looks. I mean, I really keep coming back to this. This got kind of a really cool look, and I'm probably going to stick with this. So this kind of feels red with kind of a gold trim, which I really like. So it doesn't really matter right now. I'm going to go with it. So let's go here with inserting a cylinder, and let's go with that same red. Up here, scale it down. Now this, of course, being the default cylinder here, it's got all these edge loops. I'm just going to see if this works. I'm going to go to geometry, go to, I could just go to my move tool and bring in a new one. Let's go to edge loop and hit delete, see if it gets it gets rid of all the ones I don't want. So that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and do that. Hide the top and the bottom here, and a double. You can see what's up. And probably just need to get rid of these, and be good, right? Yeah, so let's just delete him. Right. Let's bring it out here. Okay. I'm gonna do a quick taper. I think is probably a good way to do this. I actually think I'll do a deformer, because taper makes it go wide in all directions. I only want to go wide in two. So let's go to deformer. Get back to normal again. Just a little box. And widen these out. Then. And just here, scale this in, rotate it, scale it. Good. There's symmetry on. Don't forget symmetry. Already asymmetrical. So let's just go here, do a quick mirror and weld this. Wait, is the belt asymmetrical? Oh. Yeah, the belt is asymmetrical. I blame myself. Give it a nice edge loop or two for now. Again, I'll give it some thickness, obviously, but there's no point in giving it thickness now. Actually, I'm going to be posing with it. You do not have it work. I don't have to worry about that. I know the jack is back. Like that's, and I actually went and like in preparation, I actually went and got the Marvel Zombies Supreme, the five volume series. It was all right. It was he managed to come through in the end, in kind of not terribly extremely easily and well explained fashion, but long story short, he got the girl, and then zombies started eating more people. So it was, short-lived, but still, it was cool. All zombies is always fun, though. Okay, so let's kind of bring this up here. Yeah, he definitely needs his loincloth, but we'll do that, like I said, after he's posed. Yeah, I like the fact that it says the Jack is back. It's kind of like, it's funny, mostly because it makes it seem like he was like in high demand, like due to popular demand, Jack is back, and I'm sure. I mean, who knows? Maybe he maybe he is well known. It just doesn't seem like he would be, but it's just, so it's like it's interesting to kind of make that the selling point. Although he was he was pretty important to the proceedings. I'll give him that. So it needs the swashbuckling boot tops. A very, very complex procedure in which I bring two cylinders in and just stick them there. Let's do that. Let's go here. I can't wait to do the trim and all the little heart-shaped decorations on there. So let's just go here to, let's do an insert here. I'll do a cylinder this way. And then I'll go to my gear and swap it out for a different cylinder. So I'm gonna give it like 2 or 4, not many. Again, oh come on! I swear ZBrush knows exactly what number I want, so that it gives me numbers on either side without fail. So let's swap this down here. But I would love it. This is what I want to do. I want to start. I want this to kind of be a thing. I would love it if, like in the Discord, like find random, silly, ridiculous-looking characters and kind of make them your own. I just think that's kind of a fun way to go about doing this. Especially just because again, it's a lot more fun because I don't know. For me, like everyone knows what Wolverine looks like. So if you're trying to sculpt a Wolverine, you know already that there's a lot of other ones out there, and whether you realize it or not, or whether you intend to or not, there's a good chance you might kind of like let those already existing designs kind of change the way you approach it. And because they're so like, it's not like I'm thinking, well, I want to try and make this look like the famous Raphael Grassetti sculpt of Jack of Hearts. Like I'm safe. I'm safe from having to worry about, well, Daniel Bell did one and it was awesome. He didn't do one as far as I know. Maybe he's working on it, but I like the kind of the freedom that comes with working on a character that no one knows or cares about. I just think it's fun. We're starting with slightly different colors here because that very pale yellow just felt a little bit weird. As you can see, okay, so now I'm going to do the arm pieces really fast, and again, just blocking them in. Then I'm going to send them to Maya, and I'll transfer the weights, and we'll go from there. So let's just go here, and this you can use a little bit of warmth. In his face too. He's definitely probably pale. That's his father. So, wrist pieces. You guessed it. Some more cylinders, and that's pretty much it, right? So, let's just go to insert primitive and just bring in some cylinders this way. And let's just bring it on here to the arm. So I'll just do one and then mirror and weld. You know the deal. But it's kind of cool. I mean, again, we're just a little over an hour in, probably less when you take away my babbling, and we already kind of have the bare bones of the character blocked in. And to me, like that's the tricky. That's not the tricky part, but it's the part where it's easiest to kind of lose your drives because it's not you're not really seeing it yet. But I think that once for the most part, like you feel like, okay, no matter what, it definitely has this guy's vibe to it. I mean, we can argue whether we think it has this guy's vibe to it yet, but I think that it kind of, again, it'll work. I think that that's the fun part now is saying, okay, the parts are there, and now you can just kind of tinker with them, and you don't have to worry about kind of like the medium of blocking everything out because it's already kind of blocked out. A little bit like this, so that the width of this cylinder makes sense. I love these kinds of wrist things because it makes something so much easier. You can just chop the arms off at the top of these. I'm just going to get rid of these edge loops for now just because as I'm shaping it with the move tool, it's kind of like giving it, little wavy, bendy parts. I kind of don't want that. So I want to be able to kind of just tweak this and not have to worry about, that getting messed up. So I'm just going to kind of leave it like this for now. And then add his leaves when all said and done. Needs to be something that's, makes sense to us. About the same red color. And again, like these little trimmy parts here, I'll add those once it's posed. Just one less thing to worry about. So let's mirror and weld this. So now I think, let me see, is that everything that needs to be there for the hard close? I'm going to save this as Jack of Hearts bind pose, so that if I ever need to kind of like get back to this, I'm sure I will. I can kind of just come back to this and work on the parts, and then if I ever need to, I can just work on them in symmetry, bring them back into Maya, rebind them, and then just kind of like swap them back out. So like I always have one version of this guy before I post it. But I think that's most of the parts, right? For the most part, everything else I think is something you can do after I break symmetry. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to kind of rename this here. What are those things you have on your wrist? They called bracers. I'm going to call them bracers. I don't know if that's what they're called or not. I think they're called bracers. I'm going to call these boot cuffs. This is, I don't know what this is. This is shirt. There's got to be a name for it. I don't know what it is. And this is the collar. Okay, so this is the exciting renaming part of the process. I think that's everything. Teeth are there. UK shark. Thanks, Jamie. All right, so I think that's probably what I need right now. All right, he's got teeth here. I don't think I'm going to need them, but I may as well have them so in case I need them. So that's fine. So now I'm just going to go here again. Now I'm going to save this as like a part posed, so that when I bring this stuff back in, this will be the new version, right? So let's go up here to the plugin, Subtool Master, and export OBJ. Fine. Okay, so let's go here to my folder for parts. Oh, yeah. I have a folder called for rig, and then okay, so I'm going to export all this crap out. And again, I don't think I'm even going to use the tabard really in terms of the rig, but it'll just be there. Raptor, naming is the best part of the art because it's really hard to mess it up. It's really hard to mess it up. And also, it's a really quick way to check something off your list and feel very organized. Like, yep, look at me. I not only did I block out all these shapes, but they're all named. That's awesome. All right, so here's my thing. Again, this is my pose Jack of Hearts guy, right? So I have like this, kind of like this, right? I have no idea if I'm going to leave it like this exactly. In fact, I can tell you right now, this has to come like up a little bit like this. And again, don't go by how noodly these joints look. This is not a well-bound mesh. I think I made this rig 10 years ago. I've not changed the weights, the rig weights since. So no judges, people. All right, so let's go here and import all that crap. Now, I'll tell you right now, this is not an exciting part. I'm going to import every single piece. I know there's GoZ. I don't trust GoZ. I just don't use GoZ. I think I used it one time and didn't work out. So now I'm convinced that it will never work. And I'm sure the problem was just me. But the problem is I'm still me. And if I tried to use it again, I'd probably have the same problem. So I'm just importing everything really fast. Really fast is a relative term, I know. So that's everything. Cool. So you can see he came in, and I scaled him down in ZBrush exactly to 0.25. So theoretically, if I group him into a single group here and then scale him up 4 times. Should fit in there kind of perfectly. Okay, so it kind of does, which is good. So now this is the part where I'm just going to kind of bind it to the joints really fast. So I want to kind of make sure the joints are visible, which they currently are not. So make them visible. Go to shading, X-ray joints so I can see them. Okay. This part again, I'm going to bind these things just for funsies, even though I'm probably not going to use them. Right? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to just grab all of these and actually I'm just going to do the main thing. I'm going to the face. The face is just going to move with the head bone, so I don't even need to worry about binding it so much as just like a straight skin from one thing to one bone, because it's just a simple bind. And I can do that with a lot of these things. So there's not a lot of weight painting for some of these things. So for example, for the belt, I'm just going to bind that straight to the root because it's a belt that's not going to really do a whole lot of deforming. I can just bind these two straight to these two little bones here. They're not going to go anywhere. What else can I do? I can just bind these two straight to these two bones. So skin. Right. So right now, actually, and all the stupid stuff like the teeth, the stupid stuff, all the teeth and the eyes, the things that just kind of like go with the head, I can just bind those very quickly to the head. Where are the eyes? Where are the eyes? No, male eyes. That's why I didn't say. I was looking in the E section. All right, so it's going to bind all those to the head really fast. All right, so now if I were to pose him, boom, you see, there he is, all ready to go. Not quite. All right, so let's go up here and oh god, yeah, subfolders. I mean, it's amazing to think that there was a time when we didn't have folders at all, like period. Like, were we ever so young? I grab all the upper body bones here, and again, because the hands are a separate thing, that's kind of good. I don't need to worry about binding the fingers to the torso part. I'm going to bind skin. This time I'm going to bind it nicely. I'm going to bind with geodesic voxel. That's right, geodesic voxel. I kind of know what that is, but not really. Okay. It always gives me an error when I do it, but it does actually work. So who knows what's even going on at this point. All right, so this guy here, root, hip, thighs, knees. And this time, because I know that there's no point in having 4 different bones influencing anything, because that would just inviting problems. It's not going to do it that way. Boots have the shins, the ankles, and the toe. And it gives you error. It gives me errors every single time. It doesn't seem to have any problem with it though. So who knows? This is one of those ones I'm pretty sure is going to get all kinds of goofy because of these, the leg joints moving this around. It doesn't matter. So long as it's roughly in that place, it's so low res, it'll be easy to fix. So, like I kind of know going in that this is really a very brute force method of posing and rigging. Like I know that it's not going to be, like a drag and drop situation where everything's just fine afterward. It definitely won't be, but all right. So I know it'll be fine eventually. All right, so now let's go here. I'm gonna grab the 2 wrist bones here, and then go to my select hierarchy control. So it's going to grab all the bones from that point on, and then I can just grab these 2 hands and skin. I will change this to 4 influences this time. And now, again, it might be fine on its own, but now I can grab the original mesh. And let's find the original mesh. It's not the original mesh. Oh, it's on reference layer, so I can't grab it. So I can grab the original mesh and then shift select the new mesh, which I will find in a minute. It's called, is it called torso or is it called hands? Hands, there it is. And then do skin, copy skin weights, closest joint 1 to 1 and the next thing. Boom. So theoretically, again, it should transfer the weights from one to the other, right? So let's just see. Did I get everything except for the tabard thingy? Hey Zen, thank you for coming by, guys. Thank you again. Thank you all for coming by. It's nice to kind of get back into the flow a little bit. It's always always great to feel productive again and see stuff coming together, even if roughly. So a quick little line here, but who knows? Okay, so now if I go here, all right. Yeah, see, I mean, most things are okay. You can see there's a little bit of a strangeness here. I don't even know what the heck's going on with this, but that's okay. We'll do a quick little weight painting. And again, don't even need to be honest. I could just bring it in the ZBrush and smooth it, but you know, I could always just smooth it out here too. So, or I could just use the greatest tool ever, which is just a weight hammer, which just goes through them. Oh, maybe not. That's interesting. Maybe I'll just do a quick. I'll do a quick weight transfer of this as well because I got all kinds of messed up. Where's torso? Let's try a quick composition weights. Much better. Okay, much better. Thanks so much for stopping by, Zen. I really appreciate it. Yeah, but hopefully this is kind of the start of something a little bit more regular because I really enjoyed this process here. This got a little bit wonky too. It looks like, but again, I'm gonna get all caught up in this, and I don't need to because I can just smooth it out. But weight hammer is the greatest thing ever. So just weight hammer the crap out of everything here. Another tool that I don't know how I live without that. I just yeah, we'll fix it. So I think that should be good. Just turn off the visibility of the joints really fast. See how it's done. All right. So just again, it is the simplest pose ever. But part of that is really just because I want it to be able to fit without needing a crazy wide base. But also, again, the nature of the character seems to be kind of one that is not really necessarily a big, demonstrative guy. So I kind of like this general kind of sitting there, kind of badassery. It's also funny just because his outfit is so ridiculous. So it's just kind of nice little juxtaposition there. Okay, so I think I'm going to keep this. So I'm now just going to export this stuff back out. And again, I wish there was a faster way. No, there's not. So I'm going to go here to, I'm going to put a folder here called Posed OBJs. And we're off. So we're going to do the same thing again here. But I think that it's just, once it's in a pose, I immediately get way more motivated to kind of do stuff with it. So just because you start feeling like it's actually got a little bit of a story to it now, Now, what I should do is UV this before I bring it back in. But I can, I think, very simply UV this in Maya at any time, bring it in and do that thing in ZBrush where you just copy and paste UVs, right? So it's not. The reason why I'm not doing that, honestly, is just because I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm streaming, and I think that going through and UVing everything might be a little bit on the most exciting thing in the world. I think that in the next stream after I've done the UVs and stuff like that, I'll just kind of recap. But if it helps. but it definitely is not something that you need to see. So top piece and torso. Okay, so let's just save this really fast. And now we're going to go back here. And let's start bringing everything in. So this is going to be one thing. So let's just see. Now, when I bring it in, it's going to be huge again, right? Because I have to scale everything down by 20, by 75%. So just so you know, when I bring the stuff in, it's not going to. I brought another one. When I bring the stuff in, it's going to like fly. It's going to be off the screen, so you're not going to see the face for a second because it's somewhere else. Let's bring in the torso and bring in the collar. And again, there might be an easier way to do this. I just don't know what that might be. I mean, at least for me, this is progress because I used to go and export each subtool individually as opposed to using the subtool master. Now it's just me again being a stubborn old person. So I feel I'm slowly kind of embracing the 20th century, if not the 21st. Here and bring the boots. Cuts. Interesting. Okay, so we got other eyes and teeth. I think probably still coming in. Possible I might end up giving him a grimace. You don't know. Okay, so let's go here and bring all of our paint back. Boom. And again, that's kind of a good way to see what needs to be adjusted and so forth. Too far ahead of myself. Let's scale this guy down. That's what I'm going to say. Well, not scaling this guy down. I also think remember now that symmetry is turned on for everything and needs to be turned off before I do anything. There you go. So it's gonna be one of those things too. I talk as if I'm gonna move on and then I don't move on. I keep seeing things. Okay. So let's scale this whole guy down. So I'm on the torso here, and I'm just gonna hold down Alt and hit Home, so it's at the center of everything, and then just scale everything. I'll hold down Shift while I do it, so I can scale it down in 0.5 increments. That way, that's just basically kind of get him more in that pose. So there we go. Now I'm just going to really quickly go up here to transform and hit the down arrow so I can go through all of my subtools and just turn off symmetry if I see it on before I forget. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So at this point, I think we can just start blocking in the other parts of things that need to be there that would have gotten messed up by the pose. And I can start adjusting things like these horrible bendy things here in the knee, right? So go ahead and do some of that. Now, here's where it'd be good if I was Mike, Bradley, or Tony, someone who has like anatomy on the as part of their kit. I don't really when I do anatomy, I kind of just copy off of Mike, Bradley, and Tony. So, and then I say, see how much I know about anatomy? But I know for sure. You've seen them sculpt. You've seen them do muscle groups and stuff, and I don't know how they make them look good. Mine just look like a bunch of guinea pigs running underneath the pants. Like you don't see muscles, you just see big bumps. Why with guinea pigs, but it's what it was. The boots need to have soles on them. One thing I kind of need to remind myself because they kind of the feet on this guy on this male rig, they just look like he's wearing slippers, which I just think is funny. But yeah, that reminds me too. So I had mentioned that I wanted to extend the lower leg a little bit. And it doesn't necessarily feel like he needs to have them extended, but I still want to extend them a tiny, tiny bit. Um, and so I'm going to do that. I'm going to go in here to transpose master really fast, and I'm going to use the transpose tool, which I still occasionally find really, really useful. So I'm going to kind of come right through here, convert that, and then I move tool, hit Y, and drag this out, and just kind of elongate that a little bit. Maybe even just pull it down a touch. Just want that lower leg to have a little bit more length to it. I think that we were talking. I think Mike and I were talking one time. We were going through, like, looking at one of his old sculpts, and like almost invariably, we found that like it seemed like they all looked better if we just made the legs a little bit bigger, not necessarily longer, just bigger. And I don't know if it's just kind of a superhero thing or whatever, but it really seems to work. So I don't know. I tend to automatically think the legs feel a little stubby, especially when the boots are kind of like big like this. It's kind of easy for them to kind of take over the whole leg, you know. So here, this is good because again, most of this is going to be flapping around anyway. He's going to be very, well, hopefully dynamic, and so some of the little bendy things happening to the shirt tail in that thing. That's actually kind of like what we want, I would imagine. So this upper body just got awful, right? So we know that. I'm letting you know that I know that, because it's really just like this is, I don't even know, like, what do you even do with this? So come in here and I'm trying to do a little inflates just to kind of like maybe give the impression that there actually is a musculature behind underneath all this, because that is really rough. So I'm just going to come in here and just start getting some of this, get some of the shoulders and stuff defined as best I can. And again, keeping in mind that I'm a rigger and an animator who tries to sculpt, and again, the kind of muscle groups that the other fellows can just rattle off by name. To me, it's that it's the round thing on the arm. I really need to kind of get one of those crochet things, but I think in the end I probably still just end up looking at one of the other guy's sculpts and trying to copy it. So this part out, inflate. Again, he's not like a crazy muscular dude. I'm not trying to like make him out to be a Mr. Universe or anything like that, but he still should look like he's capable of opening a pretty challenging can of jar of pickles. And right now, it's a little stringy. Do little inflates here. You can see the neck is a little bit odd, but again, I don't know that it might just feel that way because all the other pieces are kind of missing right now. So I'm going to leave that alone. If you look at the neck, it looks like it's kind of like one of those reading lamps with the little flexible neck things. You're not wrong, but I'm kind of hoping that that's an illusion. It's a illusion. It's just totally fine. There it is. Really weird to watch people like Ryan Kingsland and so forth, like with those mannequins in ZBrush. They just like they turn them into Dynamesh and they just look so silly and flimsy, and then like somehow 20 minutes later with just a clay buildup brush they have like fully formed musculature. So I just don't understand how that works. Come here. I'm trying to remember that he's got stuff over top of this, but I just want there to feel like there's something to this. Again, this is one of the reasons why, if you remember with these bracers, I kind of I remove the edge loops in between. So if I need to kind of like just make large scale changes to them, it's not going to kind of look weird. It's not going to look like They're bumpy, you know. So I can just grab this whole thing and just nudge it. I'm not gonna get any weird, any weird artifacts or whatever. And over here. Given the nature of this pose, we can probably kind of embellish the back a little bit here. Make the back a little bit more this thing. Again, keeping in mind, I'm kind of ignoring the tabard. I say that as I then proceed to focus on the tabard. Part of me, again, part of me is thinking, well, maybe I will end up using this one, but we don't know for sure. All right, so we have this. Now let's take a look at. We'll just bring in some really quick, blocked out versions of the little front piece here. Again, it looks like he's got one in the back as well. Like right, where's like here? I think I can see one on the back here. That one, obviously, he's got one in the back. And here, I think you can see one kind of coming through here. So I'm guessing he's got one in the back as well. So, and I think that's kind of cool because, again, it might add a little bit of interest to the kind of the silhouette. If it's kind of floating, kind of like falling off the back there. So that might work pretty well. Often considered as a way of kind of like emphasizing the flowy nature of the dude. Okay. I think here's gonna work with that. All right, so let's do the little white hawk guys here. Before that, let's save this. Here's the part where I start getting really paranoid. Like there are certain parts I don't want to redo, and the blocking out part is one I prefer not to redo. So now, honestly, whenever I do anything that I'm not terribly unhappy with, I'm going to save because I don't know if sure you probably know that when you get a crash, the times that is the worst is when you're in the zone. Because when you're in the zone and things are going well, you don't think to save, and then when you get a crash, then you lose the best stuff you've done because after you're doing your best stuff, that's why you didn't save in the first place because you weren't thinking about it because you were doing your best stuff. So I'm gonna try to avoid that if I can. Not to say that's my best stuff, but we're getting there. So let's loincloth, right? Loincloth. All right. So let's do that. Let's come here and I'm just gonna insert a plane. And what I'm gonna do with this is, and this is fairly high res, right? So let's go here and knock this down. Maybe this a bit higher. Let's just try something. Let's just bring it right up here. All right, so I want to cheat a little bit. Let's just see if we can try some dynamics here. So I'm going to make the firmness like 4. Make the smoothing iterations like 400. So that takes time. Flow collision, yes. Gravity strength like 2. And then what is it? Run sim. Okay, it's probably a little. That's probably a little too stiff. Okay, so actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a little hint. I'm going to give it a little start, a little head start. So I'm going to kind of mask out every other row here. Let's see if this actually works. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm going to give it a shot. So something like this. Dynamics. Turn off. Let's bring it down to 2. I think. Okay, what I was hoping was, I can just use that thing. Let's just try it one more time. Okay. I want to start a little bit here, and then maybe I can use the transposed cloth. It likes to try and bend that in a little bit. Okay, what are you gonna do? This is fine. I could have just I could have just done this in 2 seconds with masking and moving, but I was trying to kind of get it to crumple a little bit and give me some of those free wrinkles. Um, and clearly, this was a smashing success. Here and the form.
I don't have an answer for that.
I don't know why that is talking to me now. It's interesting. All right, so this picture is wider at the top than it is at the bottom. It's bold. Interesting. So I'm going to come here and just duplicate this really fast. So I have another one to go back to. I'm going to bring this tool up here, bring this around. Here. And move. Obviously, I'm going to bring it in here. And again, I'm still kind of in that mindset where I'm just putting something roughly into place. Because I am going to have to kind of move this stuff around a little bit. So let's go here to our trusty bend curve. I do love the bend curve. It took me a while to learn to love the bend curve, but now I love the bend curve. So then I'm going to come here and this, maybe little twisties. That. Grab here and scale this in a little bit. Grab this and scale this out. I know it was wide. Oops. That's pretty cool. And it comes a time too. I have this problem with the belt sometimes as well, where you have to kind of decide what piece of clothing is going to call the shots in terms of do you have to make the body conform to the belt or the belt conform to the body or what have you? And that's kind of the same situation right here. I'm just like, what's in charge here? What really needs to kind of move out of the way? When I come down, when I conclude, there's really I want the little loincloth to kind of be right there. So whatever I need to do to make the loincloth work right there, then I will, which means I'll move I'll push the part of the body and I'll move the shirt tail in a little bit more, and I'll be happy to do that. So I'm just kind of play around with these. So I think something like this is kind of cool. And it's kind of a goldish color, I guess. So we'll just throw that on there. And then we'll do the other one. Let's grab the other guy. Is that what color it is in these other ones here? It was kind of red, actually. I think, yeah, in the one that I'm using as my main goal here, it's probably more like the shirt tail is kind of red with a gold trim. So I'm going to go back and go ahead and do that. And again, just for fun, it's too low res for it to even show up. So it's going to look really terrible, but that's okay. I'm just going to throw some gold trim on here. Even though, like I said, it will probably just bleed into the other stuff, and it's fine. I guess it won't bleed into too much. Yeah, it won't too much. So it's just fun. Again, still these are just reminders for myself. So now in the back, though, the question I have with the back is, yeah, just kind of so it comes out underneath. From underneath that little part there. So it's not like it's, so just like it does here. So I guess that makes sense. All right. Let's do the same thing here just before I get, before I forget. Let's do a little. Oh, again, absolutely pointless, but I don't care. So let's just do a quick. Again, I'm going to narrow at the top, I think, but we'll just see. So let's bring it around to the back. Bring it right here. Drag. Scale. So it's going to come out from underneath the flap here, which is, again, it's a little bit weird, but that's okay. Which means basically I might need to adjust the flaps quite a bit to get them to do what I want. So I want this to kind of be. hmm, I think I don't want this to be flying this way, even though that would kind of be cooler. I think it makes sense for it to go that way because this is going that way. It would look weird to kind of go in opposite directions. So, but maybe from the side view it'll look cool. So I'll go here and let's do our bend curve again. Deal. The double slide so we can see on both sides. And now just, kind of, oops. Let's get the shirt bottom and kind of pull that out a little bit. Then I'll go back to this. All right. So I think that for the most part, right, we kind of got things looking like most of the pieces are roughly in place. At least we have a feeling for what the character is. See something. So what I'd like to do really fast is again just give myself the illusion of progress, and let's just give him a quick heart on his face. Let's see. Probably is not going to work, but we'll give it a shot. So I have to bring in an alpha, obviously. I don't know if this is going to be, if this is going to work as an alpha. I don't think it's going to work. So that's okay. So let's go to Photoshop and do a quick thing. Because I want there to be a really, like, again, I just want to kind of get a feel for what's what. So, and as a way of kind of like being done for the day, I want there to be something I can kind of point to and say, okay, this makes sense. So let's go here and make a selection of the heart. So because I want to have by the end of the day, the end of this thing here is something I can say, okay, he's blocked out, he's ready to go, and he pretty much is. Let me just quickly make an alpha out of this. Not perfect, but that's okay. I'm gonna send this out as a JPEG really fast. Size league heart. Perfect. Okay, so let's bring this in. Let's give him the all important heart on his face, so that we can say, okay, we're ready to go here, because he needs that. So let's go to alpha. Let's import this. Close league. When did we do it before? There you go. Okay, so there you go. Let's go here to my heart. Let's drag this out. Actually, all I got to do, I have to straighten this up. So I'm gonna hold down Shift and tap and drag, and then let go of Shift, and then drag my camera left and right here, so it kind of straightens him up a little bit, and then give him the very important heart on his face. There we go. See, now it's him. It wasn't him before, but now it's him. Yeah, so I think that as it gives you an idea as to where I'm headed, right? And that's kind of the main goal of blocking out the character. Hopefully for me anyway, blocking out the character, the main goal is to get me excited about coming back and doing some more. And I'm really looking forward to kind of doing this guy. I think that there's a lot of really fun things to do because he's got a very crazily complex outfit. And I think, one of the things that makes 3D prints especially kind of really cool is the surface detail and texturing. And when it comes to stuff like this, I think it's going to kind of come out looking pretty interesting even before paint goes on. So we come back, and again, I'm going to be coming back on Thursday to work on the Daredevil, and then hopefully or I might work on this too, who knows. But I want to kind of keep going with this as well. So whether it be on Sundays or Thursdays, hopefully folks will drop by and kind of hang out and kind of keep me company as I try this stupid thing out. And hopefully again this will end up looking like a legit sculpt when all said and done. And hopefully again you guys will who are here will kind of get that idea too. Maybe play around with obscure type characters and see how we can kind of like bring them a little bit more into the light a little bit. So again, thanks so much always for those of you who stopped by, and for those who come by later on, thank you too. Hopefully this was useful. Hopefully it was fun. I'll be seeing you again on Thursday if you stick around. We're going to be doing some comic book covers then. So once again, folks, thank you so much for everything. And I'll see you in a little bit. Thanks, guys.